Before I share my story, please like and subscribe. Let me tell you about the day I watched my daughter-in-law, Emma, pull up outside my cottage in her brand new Mercedes, the one she claimed she couldn't afford when I asked her to help with my medical bills last winter. I was on my knees in the garden, dirt under my fingernails, and I heard her laugh. Not a polite chuckle, a full, mocking laugh that carried across my small front yard like a slap across the face. I'm 72 years old, and I've been gardening since I was a little girl, helping my grandmother in rural Pennsylvania. My name is Margaret, and this is the story of how my hobby became my weapon. It started innocently enough. Well, as innocently as anything starts when you're dealing with someone like Emma. My son David married her 8 years ago, back in 2017, when he was 35 and she was 28. I remember thinking at the wedding that she smiled too much at the photographer and not enough at my son. But mothers always think nobody is good enough for their babies, right? I kept my mouth shut. I welcomed her into our family with open arms and an open heart. David is my only child. His father, my husband Robert, passed away in 1999 from a heart attack. He was only 57. David was just 17 then, still in high school, and I raised him alone from that point forward. I worked 2 jobs to put him through college. I was a receptionist at a dental office during the day and cleaned offices at night. I saved every penny I could, sacrificed every luxury, so my boy could have the education his father and I never got. He graduated from Penn State with honors, got a good job in pharmaceutical sales, made something of himself. I was so proud I could burst. And when he met Emma at some corporate conference, I wanted to be happy for him. I really did. Emma came from money. Her father owned a chain of car dealerships across 3 states. She grew up in a house with 6 bedrooms and a pool. She went to private schools. She had a trust fund. But she worked too, I'll give her that. She was a marketing consultant, whatever that meant. She made good money on her own, plus had access to family wealth I could barely comprehend. Meanwhile, I was living in the same small 2-bedroom cottage I'd bought with Robert back in 1983. It needed work. The roof leaked in 2 places. The plumbing made noises. The heating system was older than my son. But it was paid off, and it was mine, and I loved it. The garden was my sanctuary. I had always grown vegetables, even when David was little, because it helped with the grocery bills. Tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers, beans, lettuce, herbs, whatever would grow in Pennsylvania soil. After Robert died, the garden became more than just a way to save money. It became my therapy, my reason to get up in the morning, my connection to something living and growing when everything else felt dead and dying. Over the years, I expanded it. I learned about heirloom varieties and organic growing methods. I composted, I saved seeds, I rotated crops, I built raised beds from reclaimed wood. My little 1/4-acre property became a productive paradise. Neighbors would compliment my garden. They'd ask for advice. Some would offer to buy vegetables from me, but I always just gave them away. It felt wrong to charge for something that grew from the earth. When David married Emma, I hoped she might take an interest in gardening. I imagined teaching her what my grandmother taught me, passing down knowledge through the generations. But Emma had no interest in getting her hands dirty. She wore designer clothes and got manicures every 2 weeks. She talked about restaurants I couldn't afford and vacations to places I'd only seen in magazines. Still, I tried. I really tried to connect with her. I invited them for dinner every Sunday. I sent birthday cards with checks I couldn't really afford. I babysat their dog when they went on trips. I showed up at every family event with a smile and a homemade dish and good intentions. Things started to shift about 3 years ago, in 2022. That's when I got sick. It started with fatigue that I couldn't shake, then joint pain. Then a series of doctor visits that led to tests that led to more tests that led to a diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis. Not the worst thing in the world, the doctor said, manageable with medication and lifestyle changes. But the medication was expensive. Even with Medicare, my portion came to $347 every month. I was already living on a fixed income. Social Security gave me $1,200 a month. That was it. My mortgage was paid off, thank God, but I still had property taxes, utilities, insurance, food, and now these medical bills. I had some savings, about $12,000, that I'd been guarding like a dragon guards gold. That was my emergency fund, my security blanket, my peace of mind. The medication helped, but the disease progressed anyway. My hands started to hurt constantly. The joints swelled. Simple tasks became difficult. Gardening, the thing I loved most, became painful. There were days I could barely grip a trowel. I mentioned my struggles to David during one of our Sunday dinners. Just mentioned them. I wasn't asking for anything. I was just being honest about what was happening in my life. Emma looked up from her phone, where she'd been scrolling through Instagram for most of the meal, and said, "Have you considered switching to a cheaper medication?" I explained that this was the cheapest option my doctor recommended that actually worked. The alternatives were either less effective or even more expensive. She shrugged. Actually shrugged. "Well, maybe you should cut back on other expenses then. Do you really need cable TV? And you could probably save money on groceries if you shop the sales better." I was already doing both those things. I wanted to say that, but I just nodded and changed the subject because I didn't want to cause tension. A few months later, in January of 2023, my water heater died. Just completely gave out. It was original to the house, 40 years old, and it finally surrendered. The plumber said I needed a new one. The cost would be $1,800 installed. I didn't have $1,800. Well, I did in my savings, but taking that out would cut my emergency fund nearly in half. And what if something else broke? What if I had a medical emergency? I called David. My hands were shaking as I dialed. I hated asking for help, hated it. But he was my son, and I'd given him everything, and I thought maybe he could loan me the money. Just a loan. I'd pay him back somehow. David said he'd talk to Emma and call me back. They made combined income of around $175,000 a year. They'd just bought a house worth $450,000. They drove nice cars. They went out to eat multiple times a week. Surely they could loan their mother $1,800. Emma called me back instead of David. I remember exactly what she said. "Margaret, David and I talked about it, and we're really tight on cash right now with the new mortgage and everything. We just don't have extra money lying around. Have you looked into a home equity loan or maybe one of those payment plans?" I did end up taking money from my savings. I had no choice. I needed hot water. My emergency fund dropped to $10,200, and I felt that loss like a physical pain in my chest. But here's what made it worse. 2 weeks later, Emma posted on Facebook about the vacation they were planning to Cancun. 5 nights at an all-inclusive resort. The trip cost them, based on what I could see from her excited posts, around $3,500. They couldn't loan me $1,800 for a water heater, but they could drop $3,500 on a vacation. I didn't say anything. I swallowed my hurt and my anger and kept my mouth shut. Then came the garden incident, the one that changed everything. It was a Saturday morning in May of 2023. Beautiful spring day. I was in my garden, which by this point was really struggling. My arthritis made it hard to maintain the way I used to. Weeds were winning battles I used to win easily. Some of my raised beds were in disrepair. I was doing my best, but my best wasn't what it used to be. I was on my knees, trying to plant tomato seedlings, moving slowly because every movement hurt. My neighbor had given me the seedlings as a gift, knowing I was struggling. I was determined to at least get tomatoes in the ground. That's when Emma and David drove up. I wasn't expecting them. They didn't call ahead. They just appeared in Emma's new Mercedes, a GLC 300. I looked it up later. Base price $55,000. I stood up slowly, wiping dirt on my jeans, smiling despite the pain in my knees and hands. Emma got out of the car wearing white jeans and a silk blouse and shoes that probably cost more than my monthly medication. She looked at my garden, and her face did this thing. This little twist of distaste, like she'd smelled something rotten. "Oh my God," she said, and she laughed. That laugh. "Margaret, what happened to your garden? It looks like a disaster zone." David shot her a look, but he didn't say anything to contradict her. I felt heat rising in my face. "I've been having trouble maintaining it with my arthritis. It's harder to..." You know what you should do? Emma interrupted, still smiling like she was being helpful. You should just fill it all in. Put in some grass. Make it easier on yourself. All these vegetables are so much work. And honestly, you can just buy everything at the grocery store anyway. It's not like you're saving that much money. She didn't know. She had no idea. The vegetables from my garden saved me probably $70 to $80 a month on groceries. That was significant on my budget. Plus, I knew my produce was organic, chemical-free, healthy. Plus, it was the one thing that still brought me joy. I like gardening, I said quietly. It's important to me. Emma shrugged again. That damn shrug. I just think at your age, with your health issues, you should be taking it easy. Not killing yourself over some tomatoes, but hey, it's your yard. They didn't stay long. They were on their way to look at furniture for their dining room. They just stopped by to drop off some mail that had accidentally been delivered to their house. 5 minutes, and they were gone. I stood in my garden after they left, and I cried. I actually cried, standing there among my struggling plants and my weeds and my raised beds that needed repairs I couldn't afford. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying Emma's laugh, her dismissive tone, her casual cruelty disguised as concern. And I started thinking about all the other little cuts, all the other moments over the years where she'd made me feel small. The time she joked about my outdated kitchen at a family gathering. The time she gave me a gift certificate to a salon because you really should treat yourself, with a pointed look at my gray hair. The time she suggested I might want to upgrade my wardrobe because first impressions matter, even at your age. The time she rolled her eyes when I mentioned I was clipping coupons. The time she said in front of the whole family that she and David were planning to have children soon, but they'd probably need to hire a nanny because we need someone reliable and energetic. Death by 1,000 paper cuts. That's what it was. And through it all, David said nothing. My son, who I'd sacrificed everything for, just stood by and let his wife treat his mother like some kind of embarrassing burden. I made a decision that night. I wasn't going to argue with them. I wasn't going to cause drama. I wasn't going to beg for respect or consideration. I was going to do something much smarter. I was going to make my garden work for me. The next morning, Sunday, I didn't go to their house for dinner like usual. I called David and told him I wasn't feeling well, which wasn't entirely a lie. My hands hurt, my heart hurt, everything hurt. Instead, I sat down with my laptop, the old Dell that was slow as molasses, and I started researching. I looked up organic farming, CSA programs, farmers markets, local food movements, farm-to-table trends. I learned that people were willing to pay premium prices for locally grown, organic, heirloom vegetables. I learned that there was actually a shortage of local organic produce in my area. I learned that what I'd been doing as a hobby, people were building businesses around. I spent the entire week researching and planning. I looked up the legal requirements for selling produce. I learned I could sell up to $5,000 worth of vegetables per year from my property without needing a commercial farm license. I just needed to follow basic food safety guidelines and keep records. I calculated costs. I had enough money in my savings to invest about $2,000 into upgrading my garden. That would get me better soil amendments, some repairs to my raised beds, quality seeds, and basic supplies. I looked at potential income. If I planted strategically and marketed to the right people, I could potentially make anywhere from $3,000 to $8,000 during the growing season, which ran from May through October in Pennsylvania. That would cover my medication costs. That would rebuild my emergency fund. That would let me breathe again. But here's where it got interesting. I started looking at who was buying organic produce in my area. I looked at local Facebook groups, farmers market customers, people posting about wanting local food sources. And Emma's name kept coming up. Emma, it turned out, was very active in a local Mommy and Me group on Facebook. She wasn't a mother yet, but she was planning to be, and she was already networking with the local young professional parent crowd. And this group was obsessed with organic, local, sustainable food. They posted constantly about it. They shared articles about pesticides and GMOs. They talked about wanting to feed their future children only the best. Emma herself had posted multiple times about how she wanted to support local farmers and eat organic, but the prices at Whole Foods were absolutely insane. An idea formed, a beautiful, poetic, perfectly justified idea. I was going to turn my garden into a small business. I was going to grow the best organic produce in the area, and I was going to market it to exactly the demographic Emma belonged to. The first thing I did was join the local Facebook groups. I joined Organic Living in Bucks County, Local Food Connections, and yes, the Mommy and Me group that Emma was part of. I created a business name, Margaret's Garden, Certified Organic Heirloom Vegetables. I wasn't technically certified organic because that process is expensive and complicated, but I could honestly say I used organic methods. I clarified this in my marketing materials to stay legal. I took what was left of my savings, $1,900, and I invested it in my garden. I bought organic compost and soil amendments. I repaired my raised beds with weather-resistant lumber. I bought heirloom seeds from reputable companies. I invested in a drip irrigation system that would make watering easier on my painful hands. I bought row covers to extend my growing season. I worked slowly and carefully, pacing myself, taking breaks when the pain got too bad. I took ibuprofen and wore compression gloves and refused to give up. By mid-May, my garden looked better than it had in 2 years. I'd transplanted dozens of tomato varieties, both cherry and full size. I'd planted cucumbers, peppers, beans, lettuce, kale, herbs, and specialty items like heirloom eggplants and unusual squash varieties. I had succession planted to ensure continuous harvests. Then I started my marketing campaign. I took beautiful photos of my garden and my produce. I wrote posts about growing methods, about heirloom varieties, about knowing where your food comes from. I emphasized the health benefits, the environmental benefits, the taste differences. I priced my produce at the high end of market rate because I knew my target audience would pay premium prices for premium quality. My posts started getting attention immediately. People asked questions. They wanted to know when produce would be available. They asked about varieties. Several people messaged me privately to reserve spots on my customer list. Emma saw my posts. I know she did because she liked several of them. She had no idea I was her son's mother. I used my maiden name, Margaret Sullivan, for the business. My Facebook profile didn't have my last married name prominently displayed. And honestly, I don't think Emma paid much attention to me in general, so she didn't connect the dots. 2 weeks later, she commented on one of my posts. "This looks amazing. Do you deliver? I'm very interested in supporting local organic farmers," I responded professionally. "Thank you. Yes, I do deliver for orders over $30 within a 15-mile radius. I'll be having my first harvest starting in mid-June. Would you like to be added to my customer list?" She replied yes, enthusiastically, with 3 exclamation points. I added her to my list. My first harvest came in early June. Cherry tomatoes, lettuce, herbs, snap peas, and radishes. I sent out an email to my customer list with available items and prices. My prices were about 30 to 40% higher than grocery store prices, but right in line with farmers market organic prices. Emma responded within an hour, placing an order for $42.50 worth of produce. She wanted mixed lettuce, cherry tomatoes, basil, and snap peas. I carefully packed her order in a nice basket with each item properly cleaned and arranged. I included a handwritten note. "Thank you for supporting local organic agriculture. Enjoy these vegetables grown with love and care in Pennsylvania soil." I delivered to her house on a Thursday afternoon. She answered the door in yoga pants and a tank top, her hair in a perfect ponytail. "Margaret's garden," she said, smiling broadly. "Oh my gosh, this looks beautiful." "Thank you," I said, handing her the basket. "I hope you enjoy everything." She peered at my face, and for a second, I thought she recognized me. My heart pounded, but then she just smiled again and said, "Have we met before? You look familiar." "I have one of those faces," I said. "That'll be $42.50. She paid me with a credit card using Venmo. I walked back to my car, a 15-year-old Honda Civic with 130,000 miles on it, and I drove away. I went home and laughed until I cried. Over the next weeks, my business grew. I had 12 regular customers, including Emma. Some ordered every week, some ordered every other week. Emma ordered weekly. She became one of my best customers. She raved about my produce in the Facebook groups. "The tomatoes from Margaret's garden are literally life-changing," she posted. "Best I've ever tasted. Support local farmers, people." Each week, I delivered to her house. Each week, she didn't recognize me. And why would she? When she'd seen me in May, I'd been wearing ratty jeans and an 80-pound old t-shirt, on my knees in the dirt, looking exhausted and old. Now, I wore clean clothes and sunglasses. I stood up straight. I smiled. I was a businesswoman making a delivery, not a struggling elderly mother-in-law she barely paid attention to. David and Emma came to my house for Sunday dinner in early July. It was the first time I'd seen them in weeks. I'd been too busy the previous Sundays. My garden looked spectacular. The raised beds were full of healthy, productive plants. Everything was lush and green and thriving. Emma did a visible double-take when she saw it. "Margaret, your garden looks so different. What happened?" "I decided to take it seriously," I said. "I've been working hard on it." "It looks professional," David said, looking impressed. "Mom, this is incredible." We had dinner, and I didn't mention my business. Emma talked about how she'd been buying from this amazing local farmer and how much better the vegetables tasted. She pulled out her phone and showed me a picture of a basket of produce. My basket, my produce, my handwritten note visible in the photo. "That looks lovely," I said. "You should try growing things like this," Emma said. "Though I guess it's a lot of work. This farmer must spend all her time on it." "I imagine she does," I said. They left after dinner, and I went to bed feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time: power, control, satisfaction. The summer continued. My business thrived. I was making more money than I'd projected. By the end of July, I'd brought in $4,200 in revenue. After expenses for supplies and gas, I'd netted around $3,000 in profit. Emma's orders got bigger. She started buying enough for herself and for gifts to her friends. She'd send me messages gushing about the quality. She'd post photos with my vegetables, tagging my business page, driving more customers to me. In August, she posted in the Mommy and Me group that she was planning a dinner party and wanted to feature local organic produce. Could Margaret's garden do a special order? I responded that yes, I could do a special order. What did she need? She sent me a list. It came to $167. She wanted heirloom tomatoes, multiple varieties, specialty peppers, fresh herbs, edible flowers, baby lettuce mix, fairy tale eggplants. I prepared the most beautiful basket I'd ever made. Everything was perfect: peak ripeness, pristine condition, gorgeous presentation. I delivered it on a Friday afternoon. Emma came to the door looking stressed. I could hear noise inside, people talking, catering staff probably setting up. "Oh, thank God," she said when she saw the basket. "This is perfect. David, come look at this." And there was my son, walking to the door in dress pants and a button-down shirt, smiling at the basket of vegetables. He looked right at me. I stood there, holding the basket, waiting for recognition. "That looks great, honey," he said to Emma. Then, to me, with a polite but distant smile, "Thanks for bringing it." He didn't recognize me either. His own mother standing 5 feet away from him, and he didn't recognize me. I handed the basket to Emma, accepted her payment, and left. I sat in my car for 10 minutes before I could drive. I wasn't sad. I wasn't hurt. I was angry. Burning, righteous, clarifying anger. They didn't see me. They literally didn't see me. I was invisible to them unless I was serving a purpose they needed. When I was asking for help, when I was struggling, when I needed them, they couldn't be bothered. But now that I was providing something they wanted, they were happy to take it, and they still didn't even see me. That night, I decided to push things further. In early September, Emma posted in the Facebook group asking if anyone knew where she could get organic chicken and eggs, from Happy Chickens, not factory farms. I sent her a private message from my personal account, not my business account. Just a friendly message from Margaret, her mother-in-law, saying I'd seen her post and I happened to know that my neighbor 3 houses down kept chickens and sold eggs. Would she like me to get her some? She responded, "That would be amazing. Thank you so much. Can you grab me 2 dozen? I'll Venmo you." I got the eggs from my neighbor, Jane, who was happy to sell them. $18 for 2 dozen. I messaged Emma the price. She sent me $20 and said to keep the change as a thanks for picking them up. I delivered the eggs to her house on a Sunday afternoon. She answered the door, took the eggs, thanked me, and that was it. No invitation to come in, no offer of coffee, no, "How are you doing, Margaret?" No acknowledgement of the fact that I was doing her a favor, just, "Thanks so much," and a closed door. 2 days later, she posted in the Mommy and Me group about these amazing farm fresh eggs and how everyone should support local farmers, and she included my neighbor Jane's contact information, which I'd given her. She got dozens of likes and comments about what a good person she was for supporting local agriculture. That week, I raised my prices by 20%. I sent out an email to my customer list explaining that due to increased costs and high demand, prices were going up. Most of my customers didn't blink. Emma certainly didn't. She placed her regular order without comment. I was now charging her approximately $55 to $60 a week for vegetables. Over the course of a month, that was around $230. In 4 months, from June through September, Emma spent $1,147 on produce from my garden. Remember how much they couldn't afford to loan me for the water heater? $1,800. Emma had now spent nearly that much on vegetables without realizing she was buying them from me. September turned to October. The growing season was ending. I'd had a phenomenally successful year. Total revenue of $7,800. Net profit after all expenses of around $5,300. I'd paid for 5 months of medication out of pocket. I'd rebuilt my emergency fund to over $13,000. I'd proven to myself that I could still work, still contribute, still matter. But I wasn't done. I decided it was time for the reveal. In mid-October, Emma posted about wanting to thank her amazing farmer and asked if Margaret's garden would be at any local farmers markets where she could meet in person. I responded that I didn't do farmers markets due to mobility issues, but I'd be happy to meet with her in person if she wanted. Perhaps she'd like to visit the farm, she responded enthusiastically. Yes, she'd love to see where her vegetables were grown. Could she come on Saturday? I said Saturday would be perfect. I gave her my address. She didn't notice. Or if she noticed, she didn't connect it. David and Emma had been to my house maybe 4 times in the last year, and Emma was always on her phone. I don't think she'd ever actually looked at my address. Saturday arrived, October 17th, 2023. A beautiful autumn day, clear skies, cool air, leaves turning orange and gold. I worked in the garden all morning, doing the final cleanup of the season. I was wearing decent clothes and a sun hat. My garden looked gorgeous even in its end-of-season state. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, right on time, a Mercedes pulled up outside my house. I stood up from where I'd been working, pulled off my gardening gloves, and walked toward the driveway. Emma got out of the car, holding her phone, probably planning to take pictures. She was smiling, wearing expensive athleisure, and carrying a designer bag. "Hi," she called out. "I'm Emma. I'm so excited to finally meet you," and she stopped. Her smile froze. Her eyes went wide. "Margaret," she said, her voice confused. Do you know the farmer who—" She trailed off as she looked from me to the house to the garden and back to me. I watched the realization hit her. It was like watching someone get slapped in slow motion. "You," she said. "You're Margaret's garden? You're the farmer?" "I am," I said calmly. "This is my house. This is my garden. These are the vegetables you've been buying for the last 4 months." Her face went through several expressions in rapid succession: confusion, disbelief, embarrassment, and then settling on defensive anger. "Why didn't you tell me?" she demanded. "You didn't ask," I said, "and you didn't recognize me, even when I delivered to your house, even when David was standing right there." She opened her mouth and closed it. "I've delivered vegetables to your door 12 times, I continued. "David saw me twice. Neither of you recognized me, your mother-in-law, standing 5 feet away from you, invisible." Emma's face flushed red. "That's not fair. You looked different. You were wearing sunglasses and you weren't paying attention," I said. "Because you never pay attention to me unless you need something." "That's not true." "Really?" I kept my voice level. "When's my birthday, Emma?" She stared at me. "When's my birthday?" I repeated. It's in June 28th, I said. I turned 72 this year. You didn't send a card. You didn't call. David called 2 days late because you forgot to remind him. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. What's my favorite color? What's my middle name? What did I do for work before I retired? Do you know any of these things? Silence. You don't know them because you've never asked. You've never been curious about me as a person. I'm just David's elderly mother. An obligation. Someone to be tolerated and dismissed. Margaret, that's not... Last May, you stood in my garden and laughed at me, I said, and my voice cracked just slightly. You told me I should fill it all in, give up, that I was wasting my time. Do you remember that? She looked at the ground. You laughed at my garden, the thing I love most in the world. You mocked my struggle to maintain it. You made me feel worthless. I was trying to help, she said weakly. I thought it was too much for you. No, I said. You thought it was embarrassing. You thought I was embarrassing. A poor old woman with a messy garden and a falling apart house and outdated clothes. Not someone who reflects well on you and David. That's not fair. What's not fair, I said, and now my voice was hard, is that when I asked David for help with an $1,800 water heater, you said you were too tight on cash. And then you spent $3,500 on a vacation to Cancun 2 weeks later. Her face went white. What's not fair is that you can spend over $1,000 on vegetables without blinking, but you couldn't loan your husband's mother less than that for a basic necessity. We paid you back for those vegetables, she said. We paid you fairly. Yes, I agreed. You paid me. You paid Margaret's Garden, a business for goods and services. But you wouldn't help Margaret Hartley, David's mother, your family, when she needed you. Do you see the difference? She didn't answer. When I was a faceless farmer providing you with status symbol vegetables you could post about on Facebook, you were happy to pay me premium prices. When I was your struggling mother-in-law who needed help, you had nothing to give. I didn't, she started, but she couldn't finish. You've spent 4 months buying vegetables from me, raving about me to your friends, tagging my business in your posts. You helped my business succeed, and I'm grateful for that. I really am. You've been a great customer. I let that sit for a moment. But you've been a terrible daughter-in-law. Tears started running down Emma's face. I felt no satisfaction in that, just a deep, weary sadness. I'm not trying to hurt you, I said more gently. I'm trying to make you understand. I'm a person. I'm not just an old lady you have to deal with at holidays. I have value. I have skills. I have worth. And I deserve basic respect and consideration from my family. I'm sorry, she whispered. Are you sorry you hurt me? Or are you sorry you got caught? She didn't answer. She just stood there crying, mascara running down her face. That's when David's car pulled up behind Emma's. He got out looking confused. Emma? Mom? What's going on? Emma texted me your address and said it was an emergency. Emma must have texted him when she first realized, called for backup. David, I said, did you know that the organic vegetables Emma's been buying all summer came from my garden? He looked confused. What? Margaret's garden. The business Emma talks about constantly. That's me, this garden. My vegetables. He looked at Emma, at me, at the garden. I don't understand. Your wife has been buying produce from me for 4 months. She spent over $1,100. You saw me twice when I delivered to your house. You didn't recognize me either time. His face changed as he processed this. The delivery person, that was you. That was me. But you looked so different, I supplied. Less pathetic, more put together, less like the struggling old woman you couldn't spare $1,800 to help. He flinched. Mom, that's not fair. We explained we were tight on money. And yet Emma spent $1,100 on vegetables. You went on a $3,500 vacation. You bought new furniture for $4,000. You financed a $55,000 car. How do you know? Because Emma posts everything on Facebook, I said. Every purchase, every meal, every vacation, every blessing of your comfortable life, all public for everyone to see, including your mother who you claimed you couldn't afford to help. David's face went red. Anger or embarrassment, I couldn't tell. We have our own expenses, he said, our own bills. We can't be expected to... I'm not expecting you to support me, I interrupted. I support myself. I always have. All I asked for was one loan, one time, $1,800 that I would have paid back. And you couldn't do it. Mom? But what hurts more than the money, I continued, is that you stood at your own door and looked right at me and you didn't recognize me, your mother. I raised you alone after your father died. I worked 2 jobs to put you through college. I sacrificed everything for you, and you couldn't even see me when I was standing 5 feet in front of you. The silence was deafening. Even the birds seemed to have stopped singing. I realized something this summer, I said. I realized that I don't need you to validate me. I don't need you to approve of me or support me or even notice me. I can take care of myself. I can build something from nothing. I can turn my embarrassing garden into a thriving business. I can matter with or without you. Mom, I'm not cutting you out of my life, I said. You're my son. I'll always love you. But things are going to be different from now on. I'm not going to bend over backward to accommodate you anymore. I'm not going to beg for crumbs of your attention. I'm not going to accept being treated as an afterthought in your life. David looked like I'd slapped him. Emma was still crying quietly, her arms wrapped around herself. From now on, I continued, if you want a relationship with me, you put in effort. You call me, you visit me, you remember my birthday, you ask about my life. You treat me like a person who matters, not because I'm useful, not because I'm providing something you want, but because I'm your mother and I deserve basic love and respect. We do respect you, David said, but his voice was weak. Then show me, I said. Don't tell me, show me. I took a breath, steadying myself. My hands were shaking, but my voice stayed strong. As for the business, I said, looking at Emma, you've been a wonderful customer, truly. But I think it's best if you find a different farmer going forward. I'll give you the contact information for 3 other excellent local growers. They'll take good care of you. Margaret, please, Emma said, her voice breaking. I'm so sorry. I didn't think about... That's the problem, I said. You didn't think about me at all. David stepped forward. Mom, let's talk about this. Let's all calm down and... I am calm, I said. I've never been calmer. I spent 4 months building a business, proving to myself that I still have value, that I can still contribute to the world. And in the process, I learned that I don't need validation from people who can't be bothered to see me, even if those people are my own family. I walked past them toward my front door. I think you should both leave now. When you're ready to have a real conversation, not a defensive reaction, you know where to find me. I went inside and closed the door. I didn't watch them leave. I didn't peek through the curtains. I just sat in my living room, in the chair that Robert bought me for our 20th anniversary, and I let myself cry. Not sad tears, not really. Relief tears, release tears. Years of swallowed hurt finally acknowledged and expressed. I cried for about 20 minutes. Then I washed my face, made myself a cup of tea, and sat down to process orders from my other customers. 3 days passed. I didn't hear from David or Emma. I continued my business making final deliveries of the season. My customers were sad that winter was coming. Several asked if I'd do greenhouse growing or if I'd have anything available in the spring. I told them I'd think about expanding operations next year. On the 4th day, Wednesday, October 21st, David showed up at my door alone. It was 7 in the evening, after dark. I almost didn't answer, but I saw his car through the window and I knew I couldn't hide forever. I opened the door. He stood there, looking exhausted. His tie was loosened. He had circles under his eyes. "Can I come in?" he asked. I stepped aside. He came in and sat on the couch where he'd sat hundreds of times before. I sat in my chair. We looked at each other across the coffee table that I'd refinished myself 15 years ago. "I've been thinking," he said. "For 3 days, that's all I've done. Think about what you said." I waited. "You're right," he said, and his voice cracked. "Mom, you're right, about all of it." Tears started running down his face. My son, my 44-year-old son, crying like he was a little boy again. "I didn't recognize you," he said. "My own mother, and I didn't recognize you. What kind of son does that make me?" "A busy one," I said quietly. "A distracted one, maybe a selfish one, but not an evil one." "I should have helped you with the water heater," he continued. "We had the money. Emma and I talked about it, and she convinced me that you needed to learn to manage your own finances better, that helping you would just enable bad habits. But you don't have bad habits, Mom. You're the most financially responsible person I know. You just have limited income and unexpected expenses, and I should have helped you. Yes, I said simply. You should have. And the vacation. God, the vacation. We posted about that, didn't we? We rubbed it in your face without even realizing. You did. I'm so sorry, he said. I'm so sorry. We sat in silence for a moment. When did I become this person? He asked. When did I become someone who doesn't see his own mother? Who doesn't help when she needs help? Who lets his wife mock her and doesn't stand up for her? I don't know, I said. But the question is, are you going to stay that person? No, he said firmly. No, I'm not. He pulled out his phone and opened his banking app. Before I could ask what he was doing, he transferred money to me. I heard the notification on my phone. I checked. $2,500. David, I don't want... It's not charity, he said. It's the $1,800 for the water heater, which I should have loaned you a year ago. Plus $700 for the months of stress and hurt I caused by not helping you. It's not enough. I know it's not enough. But it's a start. I didn't know what to say. I talked to Emma, he continued. Really talked for hours. She's devastated. She's been crying for 3 days straight. She wrote you a letter. He pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket and set it on the coffee table. She wanted to come with me tonight, but I thought I should talk to you first. Alone. I looked at the envelope, but didn't reach for it yet. She came from money, David said. You know that. But what you don't know is that her parents are kind of emotionally cold. They provided everything financially, but nothing emotionally. She's been in therapy for years dealing with it. And I think she learned to show love through expensive gifts and experiences because that's what she knows. She doesn't know how to just be present with people, how to see them. That's not an excuse, I said. No, he agreed. It's not. It's an explanation, not an excuse. She was wrong. We were both wrong. But I'm telling you this because I think she can learn. I think we both can learn, if you'll give us the chance. I thought about this. I thought about the little boy who used to help me in the garden, who would get so excited when the tomatoes ripened. I thought about the teenager who held me while I cried after his father died. I thought about the young man who called me from college every Sunday without fail. That person was still in there somewhere. He'd just gotten lost. What do you want from me? I asked. A chance, he said. A chance to do better, to be better. I'm not asking you to forget what happened or pretend it didn't hurt. I'm just asking for the opportunity to show you that we can change. I was quiet for a long moment. Okay, I said finally, but on my terms. Sunday dinners are no longer mandatory for me to host. If you want to see me, you come here and you bring the food, or we go out and you pay, or we trade off hosting, like equals. Okay, you call me at least once a week, not a text, a call, and you have a real conversation with me. You ask about my life. I will. You remember my birthday. You remember Christmas. You show up for things that matter to me, like you expect me to show up for things that matter to you. I promise. And you stand up for me, I said. If Emma or anyone else disrespects me, you defend me every time, without hesitation. I will, he said. I swear I will. And you go to therapy, I added. Both of you. Because this isn't just about your relationship with me. This is about how you show up in the world, how you treat people, how you see people. He nodded. Emma already found a therapist. She has her first appointment next week. And I'll find one too. Good. He stood up and came to me. He knelt down next to my chair like he was a little boy again, and he put his head in my lap. I'm sorry, Mom, he whispered. I'm so sorry. I put my hand on his head, running my fingers through his hair like I used to when he was small. I forgive you, I said. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. You have to earn back my trust. I know, he said. I will. I promise I will. He stayed for another hour. We talked more. Really talked. He told me about stress at work that he'd never mentioned before. He told me about fights with Emma, about starting a family. He told me he'd been seeing a doctor for anxiety and insomnia. He told me things he'd never shared, opening up in a way he hadn't since he was young. And I told him things too, about how lonely I'd been since his father died, about how scared I was of my arthritis getting worse, about how proud I was of my garden business, but also how exhausting it had been, about how sometimes I felt invisible in the world, like I'd stopped mattering once I got old. When he left, we hugged at the door for a long time. "I love you, Mom," he said. "I love you too," I said. "I always will, even when I'm mad at you." After he left, I opened Emma's letter. It was 5 pages long, handwritten on nice stationery. Her handwriting was pretty, looping and careful. The letter started with an apology, a real one. Not, "I'm sorry you felt that way," but "I'm sorry I hurt you. I was wrong. My actions were cruel and thoughtless." She wrote about her childhood, about learning that money equaled love, about never feeling good enough for her own parents unless she was achieving or acquiring or presenting a perfect image. She wrote about how she'd been treating me the way her parents treated their own parents, like obligations to be managed rather than people to be loved. She wrote about the garden incident in May, about how she'd been having a terrible day and took it out on me, and how she'd regretted it immediately, but never apologized because she was too embarrassed. She wrote about how watching me build a successful business had made her feel ashamed of herself, of how little she'd accomplished despite all her advantages. She wrote about how she wanted to do better, be better, learn how to love people instead of impressing them. The last paragraph said, "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know words are easy and actions are what matter. But if you're willing to give me a chance, I promise I will spend the rest of my life proving to you that I can be the daughter-in-law you deserved from the beginning. I want to learn from you, not just about gardening, but about resilience and dignity and real strength. You are extraordinary, and I was too blind and stupid to see it. I see it now. I hope you'll let me keep seeing it." I folded the letter carefully and put it back in the envelope. I didn't cry. I just felt tired. And maybe, underneath the tired, a tiny seed of hope. The following Saturday, Emma came to my house alone. She knocked on the door at 9 in the morning. When I answered, she was holding a coffee from the expensive cafe downtown and a bag from the bakery. "I brought breakfast," she said nervously. "If you'll let me stay. If not, I'll just leave these and go." I looked at her, really looked at her. She looked awful. No makeup, hair in a messy bun, sweatpants and an old t-shirt, probably the most real I'd ever seen her look. "Come in," I said. We sat at my kitchen table, the one Robert built 40 years ago, and we ate scones and drank coffee and talked, really talked. She asked me about Robert. Nobody ever asked me about Robert. She asked what he was like, how we met, what I missed most about him. I found myself telling her stories I hadn't told anyone in years. She asked me about raising David alone, about what it was like working 2 jobs, about how I made it through. She asked me about my arthritis, about whether the medication was helping, about whether I was in pain. She asked me about my garden, about how I learned to grow vegetables, about what I loved about it. She listened, really listened, not looking at her phone, not waiting for her turn to talk, just listening. And then she told me about herself, real things, not the Instagram version. She told me about her eating disorder in college, about her mother's constant criticism, about feeling like she was never enough, about being terrified of having children because she didn't know how to be warm, how to be present, how to be a good mother when she'd never really had one. We talked for 3 hours. When she left, she hugged me, a real hug. "Thank you," she said, "for giving me a chance." "Don't waste it," I said. "I won't." That was a year ago. It's now October of 2024, and I'm sitting in my garden on a crisp autumn morning, reflecting on how much has changed. David calls me every Wednesday evening. We talk for at least 30 minutes. He tells me about work, about his life, about his fears and hopes. He asks about mine. He shows up. Emma comes over most Saturday mornings. Sometimes we work in the garden together. Her hands are soft and she's not very good at it yet, but she tries. Sometimes we just drink coffee and talk. She's in therapy twice a week now. She's working through things, growing. They didn't buy vegetables from me this year. I made that boundary clear. But Emma referred 12 people to my business, 12 customers who became regulars. She promoted me genuinely, without any expectation of personal credit. In June, on my 73rd birthday, they showed up at my door with a gift, not something expensive. A photo album that Emma had made. It was full of pictures of me from over the years. Me with David as a baby, me with Robert, me in my garden, me at David's college graduation, me at their wedding. Pictures I didn't even know existed. On the first page, Emma had written, "Thank you for being someone worth seeing. We're sorry it took us so long to open our eyes." I cried over that album for an hour. In August, they told me they're expecting a baby, a girl, due in March. They asked if I'd want to be involved, to be a real grandmother, not just a name on a birthday card. I said yes. They asked if I'd consider teaching their daughter to garden someday. I said I'd love nothing more. Last week, David showed up with lumber and tools. He spent all day Saturday repairing the raised beds that were falling apart. Emma came too. She painted the repaired beds while David worked. They brought lunch. We ate together in the garden, sitting on the old bench that I've had for 30 years. "I'm proud of you, Mom," David said out of nowhere. "I don't think I've ever told you that, but I'm proud of who you are and what you've built." "I'm proud of you too," I said, "for being willing to change. That's harder than staying the same." Emma touched my hand. "Thank you for not giving up on us." "I'm your family," I said. "Family doesn't give up, but family also doesn't accept being treated poorly. You have to do both. Love people and expect to be loved back." This year's garden business was even more successful than last year. I made $9,300 in revenue, $7,000 in profit after expenses. I've fully rebuilt my emergency fund to $18,000. I can afford my medication without stress. I can afford small repairs on my house. I can breathe. But more than that, I proved something to myself. I proved that getting old doesn't mean becoming invisible. I proved that I still have value, still have skills, still have worth. I proved that I don't need anyone to validate me, even though it's nice when they do. I proved that the best revenge isn't hurting someone back. It's succeeding, it's thriving, it's becoming so undeniably valuable that they can't pretend you don't exist anymore. My daughter-in-law laughed at my garden. She mocked my struggle. She dismissed my passion. And then she paid me over $1,000 for the privilege of eating food I grew with my own hands in that same garden. She learned that what she thought was worthless was actually valuable, that what she thought was pathetic was actually impressive, that the old woman she dismissed was actually strong and capable and successful. And more importantly, she learned to see me, really see me. That's worth more than any amount of money. I'm 73 years old. My hands hurt every day. My knees crack when I stand up. I live in a small house that needs work. I drive an old car. I'm not rich. I'm not powerful. I'm not impressive by the world's standards, but I can grow food from soil and seeds and sun. I can turn a quarter acre into a thriving business. I can command premium prices for quality work. I can build something from nothing. And I taught my son and his wife that I deserve respect. Not because of what I can give them, not because of what they owe me, but because I'm a person with dignity and worth. That's my legacy. Not money, not property, not achievements. Teaching people to see each other, teaching them that every person matters regardless of age or income or status, teaching them that love is shown through presence and attention, not just expensive gifts. My garden taught me that you reap what you sow, that what you nurture grows, that patience pays off, that even when things look dead in winter, spring comes again if you just hold on. I sowed seeds in soil. I sowed boundaries in relationships. I sowed self-respect in my own heart. And now I'm reaping the harvest. My relationship with David and Emma isn't perfect. We still have awkward moments. Old patterns try to resurface sometimes. But we're all trying. We're all growing. And that's all anyone can ask for. Next spring, I'm planning to expand my garden. I'm going to build a small greenhouse with some of the profit from this year. I'm going to extend my growing season. I'm going to grow even more varieties. And in March, when my granddaughter is born, I'm going to plant a fruit tree in her honor. An apple tree, I think. Something that will grow as she grows. Something that will bear fruit for decades to come. Something that will remind all of us that what we plant today matters tomorrow. Emma asked me what I'm going to name my business next year. She said, "Margaret's garden is nice, but maybe I should consider something that tells more of the story." I thought about it for a while. I think I'm going to call it Second Harvest, because this garden gave me a second chance at purpose, a second chance at independence, a second chance at dignity. And my family gave me a second chance at connection. Second harvests are sweeter than first harvests. They're earned, they're appreciated, they're savored. I'm savoring this. So if you're out there struggling with family who doesn't see you, or a passion that others mock, or a dream that seems impossible, remember this: you don't need permission to be valuable. You don't need validation to matter. You don't need anyone's approval to grow. You just need soil and seeds and sun and determination. The rest will come. Now, if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe, comment below, and tell me where you're watching from. And if this story meant something to you, if it reminded you of your own struggles or your own garden, hit that super thanks button. Your support helps me keep telling these stories. Remember, everyone has worth, everyone deserves to be seen, and everyone can grow something beautiful, even in the hardest soil. Thank you for listening to my story, and may your gardens, whatever form they take, flourish.